ask you something. Why would a review make the point of saying someone's not a genius? You think I'm especially not a genius? I don't. You didn't even have to think about it, did you?
Well, I just don't use that word lightly. I have to go, Eli.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of RT Essentials. I'm Mark Ellis. Today we're taking a look at some memorable movie families, but not just any families, these are the most dysfunctional. We'll be focusing on the families more so than the movies, because really, nothing makes you feel better about your own family than sitting around together and watching ones that have way more stuff going on. And whether it's inviting the in-laws over for a good old-fashioned family Christmas that goes very wrong, or interrogating a family to figure out which one may have killed its patriarch, this list has all the dysfunctional family fun you can handle. And yeah, I'm gonna say the word dysfunction or dysfunctional a lot, so it's unavoidable. This is what the families give us. And with that, here is our list of the most dysfunctional movie families. The Tenenbaums, the Royal Tenenbaums.
Here I come.
Eli just crashed his car into the front of the house.
Oh my God.
Where's my shoe?
And kicking off this list is the Tenenbaum family from 2001's The Royal Tenenbaums. This film was directed by Wes Anderson, who co-wrote it with Owen Wilson and follows the lives of the gifted Tenenbaum siblings. Ben Stiller as Chaz, Gwyneth Paltrow as Margot, and Luke Wilson as Richie. After being successful as kids, they are now experiencing disappointment and failure in adulthood. Welcome to the club. Their eccentric father, Royal Tenenbaum, played by Gene Hackman, left them as adolescents, but later returns claiming to have a terminal illness and looking to reconcile with his ex-wife, Etheline, played by Anjelica Huston. Wes Anderson drew on his own parents' divorce as the starting point for this concept, and then the story evolved into something else altogether. He pulled from a number of influences, like Orson Welles' 1942 film, The Magnificent Amberson, about a wealthy family with plenty of baggage.
He has the cancer.
No, he doesn't. I know what stomach cancer looks like. I've seen it. And you don't eat 3 cheeseburgers a day with French fries if you got it. The pain is excruciating.
How would you know?
My wife had it. Not only is there no Dr. McClure at Kobe General, there is no Kobe General. It closed in 1974.
Oh, man.
The dysfunction in this family starts with Hackman's Royal Tenenbaum, which, as Anderson put it, was written for him against his wishes. And it actually took some convincing from Hackman's agent to take the part, as he couldn't find any commonalities with the character. He would go on to win a Golden Globe for the performance. Once Hackman was on board, the rest of the star-studded cast fell into place, which also includes Bill Murray and Danny Glover, adding to the dysfunction of it all. Etheline was written with Anjelica Huston in mind and is loosely based on Anderson's own mother, who became an archaeologist after divorcing his father. Ben Stiller and Gwyneth Paltrow, meanwhile, two very big stars at the time, only had a small window to make this film happen due to other projects, so filming worked around their schedules. Along with the actors, bringing this story of a seemingly functional family turned dysfunctional one to life was an Oscar-nominated screenplay by Anderson and Wilson. The Griswolds, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Just can't believe you're actually standing here in my living room, Eddie. Never thought the day would come.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. Yeah. It's a crying shame the older kids couldn't make it.
I'll get that. Don't worry about it. Let me do it.
And brightening up this list with 25,000 incandescent bulbs is the Griswold family from 1989's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. The third installment in National Lampoon's Vacation film series was written and co-produced by John Hughes, and it features Chevy Chase reprising his role as Clark Griswold, whose combination of optimism and denial only adds to the chaos surrounding his family, while his always supportive, yet not always agreeable wife Ellen is once again played by Beverly D'Angelo. And this time the franchise had some memorable turns from the kids, whose revolving door of actors from film to film included Juliette Lewis as Audrey and a young Johnny Galecki as Russ for this one. Her dislike of all things related to a big family Christmas and his overall annoyance by the relatives are vital pillars to this family's tower of dysfunction.
And I want to look them straight in the eye, and I want to tell them what a cheap, lying, no-good, rotten, four-flushing, low-life, snake-licking, dirt-eating, inbred, overstuffed, ignorant, blood-sucking, dog-kissing, brainless, dickless, hopeless, heartless, fat, bug-eyed, stiff-legged, spotty-lipped, worm-headed sack of monkey he is. Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
And while that core four definitely has their own issues, the real drama in this one comes from the extended family who pretty much all show up, some invited, some not, to spend the holidays at the Griswold Manor. Some of the in-laws include Everybody Loves Raymond star Doris Roberts as Ellen's mother, and Mae Questel, aka the voice of Betty Boop, as Clark's 80-year-old senile Aunt Bethany. Then there's Randy Quaid as Cousin Eddie, reprising his role from the first Vacation film and putting forth one of the most memorable character performances in Christmas movie history. And by showing up unexpectedly with his family and dog, named Snot, in their dirty RV, I mean, that really puts the fun in family dysfunction. The Thrombies, Knives Out.
Likewise, the house at 2 Dearborn Drive and all belongings therein I leave to Marta Cabrera.
Oh, you little you little
Linda?
Did you know about this? Were you in on this from the beginning? No, I just want to know. What were you? What were you doing? Were you boinking my father? Boinking?
Adding some mystery to this list is the Thromby family from 2019's Knives Out. The film was written and directed by Rian Johnson, his first film after directing The Last Jedi, and revolves around the death of 85-year-old best-selling crime novelist Harlan Thrombey, played by Christopher Plummer, in the last movie he filmed before his death. What happened to Harlan is unknown, and given the level of dysfunction in this family, it becomes quite the web of lies to sift through in order to figure out who may have been responsible. The stacked cast of suspects/family members includes Jamie Lee Curtis as Linda, Harlan's oldest daughter, along with her husband Richard, played by Don Johnson. On the day of his death, Harlan had threatened to expose Richard for cheating on Linda. They have a son, Ransom, played by Chris Evans, who had recently had an altercation with his grandfather. Harlan's youngest son, Walt Thromby, who was just fired from Harlan's publishing company, is played brilliantly by Michael Shannon. Rian Johnson said he was by far the funniest person on set and came up with a lot of his character's funny moments.
Nothing good is ever easy.
Up your ass, Joni. You've had your teeth in this family's for a long time.
Up your ass. Oh, very nice.
Matter of fact, eat
No.
how's that?
Do not use that word in front of my son.
Eat
If I was to say
You
I would
don't
slap
talk
that
to your
smug
mother.
smile right
Definitely eat shit.
that face.
Also adding to the dysfunction is Emmy winner Toni Collette as Joni Thromby, the widow of Harlan's deceased son and whose allowance was cut off by Harlan the very day he died. All that family and all that drama helped turn this one into a surprise mega hit, one that resulted in a huge deal with Netflix for 2 sequels from Rian Johnson. The Hoovers, Little Miss Sunshine.
And that's when I
decided to check out early.
Yes, and I failed at that as well.
Olive, the important thing to understand here is that Uncle Frank gave up on himself. He made a series of foolish choices. I'm sorry, and he gave up on himself, which is something that winners never do.
Taking their family dysfunction on the road for this list is the Hoovers from 2006's Little Miss Sunshine. This film marks the directorial debut of husband-wife team Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Ferris, best known for music videos at the time. And the screenplay was written by first-time writer Michael Arndt, who would go on to tackle all kinds of different families in films like Toy Story 3 and Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Little Miss Sunshine revolves around the dysfunction that occurs among the Hoover family after they all pile into a VW van for a road trip to take the young Olive Hooper, played by Abigail Breslin, to a beauty pageant. The family on the trip includes Greg Kinnear's Richard Hoover, Olive's father, and a type A personality who's trying to become a successful life coach. Thomas Hayden Church turned down the role before Kinnear was cast. Richard's wife Cheryl, played by Toni Collette, is an overworked mom of 2 who's welcomed her brother Frank, played by Steve Carell, to live with them after he attempted suicide. The role of Frank was reportedly written with Bill Murray in mind, and there was also pressure from the studio to cast Robin Williams. But Carell ended up with the gig after a meeting with the directors, who were weary of his comedy background, but found that he totally understood the tone of the film and his character.
Anyway, he gets down to the end of his life, and he looks back and decides that all those years he suffered, those were the best years of his life, because they made him who he was. All the years he was happy, total waste. Didn't learn a thing. So, if you sleep until you're 18, think of the suffering you're gonna miss. I mean, high school, those are your prime suffering years. They don't get better suffering than that.
But that ain't all the dysfunction, folks, because this van also included Richard's foul-mouthed father, Edwin, who lives with the family after being evicted from a retirement home for, yes, you heard this correctly, snorting heroin. And we also got Cheryl's son, Dwayne, from a previous marriage, played by Paul Dano, who's taken a vow of silence. There's nothing like a van full of family working through their issues, although I do know who's going to win the silent game. This family dysfunction did prove quite successful at the box office, and the film was also nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and 1 Best Original Screenplay and Supporting Actor for Alan Arkin. Plus, the Hoover family took home the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture. The McDonoughs, Raising Arizona.
And we followed that
You
to...
mean you busted out of jail?
No, ma'am. We released ourselves on our own recognizance.
What Ella here is trying to say is that we felt the institution no longer had anything to offer us. My Lord, he's cute.
He's a little outlaw. You can see that high.
Now, listen, you folks can't stay here.
Ma'am?
You just can't stay. Now, I appreciate you being friends of High and all, but this is a decent family now.
Next up on our list of most dysfunctional families is the McDonoughs from 1987's Raising Arizona. The film was written, directed, and produced by brothers Joel and Ethan Coen in just their second feature after the 1984 crime drama Blood Simple. This one revolves around the McDonoughs, starting with Nicolas Cage's Hi. He's a common convenience store robber who yearns to live life on the straight and narrow after he marries a former police officer, Ed McDonough, played by Holly Hunter. Of course, an ex-con and an ex-cop doesn't necessarily spell family dysfunction, but in this case, because of their inability to have kids on their own, they decide to take matters into their own hands by stealing a baby from a rich family set of quintuplets, and from there, the dysfunction just gets more amplified. The Coen brothers wrote the character of Ed specifically for future Oscar winner and friend Holly Hunter in one of her earliest feature film roles. But when it comes to Hi McDonough, Kevin Costner actually auditioned for the role 3 times before Nicolas Cage was eventually cast.
Man, listen up. What's the matter? Don't you get it?
No, Glenn, I sure don't.
Well, man, I guess that's why they call it a way homer.
Why's that?
Because you only get it on the way home.
I'm already home, Glenn.
You wet yourself, you wet yourself. Mr. McDonough wet himself, Daddy.
Further complicating the family dynamic between the McDonoughs is the outside interference from characters like biker Leonard Smalls, played by pro boxer Randall Tex Cobb, and his old cellmates Yvelle and Gail Snodes, played by William Forsythe and John Goodman, respectively. Oscar winner Frances McDormand, a former roommate of Hunter's at the Yale School of Drama, also appears in this film as Dot, another person trying to spoil the McDonough's plan. And let's not forget about the baby, Nathan Jr., who would have truly completed this dysfunctional family had the McDonough's plan worked. 15 different babies were used to make up the quintuplets in the movie, with one reportedly being let go after learning how to walk. It's a cutthroat business, this Hollywood. The McAllisters, Home Alone.
You're completely helpless. Everyone has to do everything for you.
She's right, Kev.
Excuse me, pupils. I'm a lot smaller than you. I don't know how to pack a suitcase. Hey, I hope you didn't just pack crap, Jeff.
Shut up, Lenny.
Do you know what I should pack?
Buzz told you, cheek face. Toilet paper and water.
Listen, Kev, what are you so worried about? You know Mom's gonna pack your stuff anyway. You're what the French call les incompetents. What?
And not getting left behind on this list is the McAllister family from 1990's Home Alone. The film was directed by Chris Columbus a couple years after making his debut with Adventures in Babysitting. It stars Macaulay Culkin as Kevin, a member of the McAllisters, who makes a wish that he doesn't have a family, and then he wakes up, lo and behold, to find himself in a big empty house, not realizing that his family accidentally left him behind when they took off in a hurry to the airport. Writer John Hughes, who conceived the film while preparing for vacation and wondering what would happen if he left his son behind, suggested that they cast Culkin after his experience with the actor on Uncle Buck. Director Columbus met with 200 other actors for the part of Kevin. Comedian and actor John Mulaney was asked to audition, but his parents declined before Culkin was ultimately given the role. And of course, Kevin's parents in Home Alone, played by John Hurt and Catherine O'Hara, don't scream dysfunction on the surface, but they did forget one of their kids, so, you know. If it makes you feel better, Catherine O'Hara did say in 2014 that Macaulay Culkin still calls her Mom. Some of the other big contributors to the dysfunction of the McAllisters includes Kevin's older brother Buzz, played by Devin Rattray, and Kevin's youngest cousin Fuller, played by Macaulay Culkin's brother, Kieran Culkin. But if you've seen Home Alone as many times as we all have, you know the real dysfunction all stems from one source, Uncle Frank. The role was written for Kelsey Grammer, but later given to Jerry Baman when Grammer was unavailable, so Baman got to deliver one of the movie's best lines.
He started it. He ate my pizza on purpose. He knows I ate sausage and olives and
Look what
onions
you
and-
did, you little jerk!
And of course, we would get more of Uncle Frank as this film was followed by a sequel in 1992, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, which brought most of the original film's cast back and all that dysfunction with it. The Westons, August Osage County.
Father and I, first in our families to graduate high school. And he wound up an award-winning poet. You girls just given a college education. Taken for granted, no doubt. Where'd you wind up? What do you do? What do you do? Who are you? Jesus, you worked as hard as us, you'd all be president. You had no real problems, so you gotta make all your problems yourself.
Arriving in what could be considered the late summer of this list is The Weston Family from 2013's August Osage County. The movie was directed by John Wells, who developed the series Shameless for Showtime 2 years earlier, a show known for having one of the most dysfunctional families ever seen on television. In this film, after the disappearance of their father, Beverly Weston, played by Sam Shepard, the family's 3 adult daughters go back to the Oklahoma house they grew up in and to the dysfunctional mother they grew up with, who is, of course, a sharp-tongued, pill-popping cancer patient, Violet Weston, played by Meryl Streep. Screenwriter Tracy Letts vetoed a studio exec's idea of Judi Dench's Violet. Actresses like Jane Fonda, Glenn Close, and Annette Bening were then considered for the role before Streep stepped in. As far as the daughters go, they clearly took plenty of their mom's dysfunctional ways with them into adulthood, with more baggage being unpacked as the film goes on.
Do me the courtesy of recognizing when I am demeaning you.
Violet really has a way of putting you in attack mode, you know that? You feel such rage
Don't.
for her that
Don't
you can't help dishing
psychoanalyze
out.
me.
Well, you may not like my methods, but you know I'm right.
Your methods. Thank you, Doctor. I don't actually need my mother's help to feel rage.
You want to argue? Is that what you need to do? Then pick a subject, all right? And let me know what it is so I have a fighting chance.
I am the subject. The subject is me.
Julia Roberts plays the oldest daughter, Barbara, who's married to Ewan McGregor's Bill, and with Abigail Breslin as their daughter, Jean, who beat out Chloe Grace Moretz for the role. Then there's Julianne Nicholson as Ivy, the middle daughter, and Julia Lewis is Karen Weston, the youngest of the 3. Lewis actually replaced Andrea Riseborough, who was cast but dropped out due to scheduling conflicts. And yes, it is quite hilarious that these 3 daughters are played by actresses named Julia, Julianne, and Juliet. Rounding out the family dysfunction to varying degrees is characters like Violet's sister Maddie Faye, played by Emmy winner Margot Martindale, and Benedict Cumberbatch as her son Little Charles. We get Cumberbatch in this movie too! And while the cast as a whole was nominated for a SAG Award, deservedly so, the real core of this film's drama, Streep and Roberts, were both nominated for Oscars, Golden Globes, and SAG Awards for their respective leading and supporting performances. You see, good things can rise up from a dysfunctional family. The Solitanos, Silver Linings Playbook.
What the
Stupid book. I just can't believe Nikki's teaching that book to the kids. I mean, it's the whole time. Let me just break it down for you. The whole time you're rooting for this Hemingway guy to survive the war and to be with the woman that he loves, Catherine Barkley.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning.
Dancing their way onto this list next is the Solitano family from 2012's Silver Linings Playbook. The movie stars Bradley Cooper as Pat Solitano Jr., a man with bipolar disorder who winds up living back at his home with his parents after losing his job and his wife and spending time in a mental institution. Meanwhile, Pat Sr. and Dolores Solitano, played by Robert De Niro and Jackie Weaver, along with their other son Jake, played by Shea Wiggum, are seemingly more interested in Pat Jr. sharing their love for the Philadelphia Eagles than rebuilding his life. So Pat Jr. turns to a young widow named Tiffany, played by Jennifer Lawrence, for help. The film was written and directed by David O. Russell, who said he rewrote the script roughly 20 times and was drawn to the story because of the family relationships and a connection he felt to his own son. When it comes to the dysfunction of the Solitanos, Russell would shoot multiple versions of scenes with De Niro's character operating at various levels of harshness, allowing Russell to find the right balance of dysfunction during the editing process.
I want to do everything I can to help you get back on your feet. That's the whole point. Yeah. I wish you'd watch these games with me. So we could talk and we could get into things. So look, we just come downstairs and talk to me and Randy now, huh?
For the character of Pat Jr., Russell was looking at Vince Vaughn and later Mark Wahlberg for the part, the latter of which ultimately had to drop out after production delays, so Bradley Cooper landed the role. Cooper said at the time that he was feeling heavier and more angry in his life, and he would channel those qualities for the character. And as we've clearly learned today, a great combination for a dysfunctional family seems to be great acting and writing, which this one clearly had. Among its 8 Oscar nominations was one each for De Niro, Weaver, and Cooper, not to mention Best Directing, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Picture. Russell did pick up a BAFTA award for his screenplay, and top Rotten Tomatoes critic Bob Mondello from NPR.org called him just the guy to bring and then calm the manic dysfunction in these folks. And as a nice capper, hey, the Eagles are doing well this season. The Grants, Nebraska.
Damn, you hit the Powerball. Show us the ticket, Uncle Woody.
Honestly, he didn't win anything.
I didn't win anything.
I don't blame you, Woody. I wouldn't broadcast it either. Not till I had it in the bank. You have to watch out for buzzers, too.
Barton, we can drive you. Sure. We can get you to Lincoln in an hour.
And the final family included on this list of the most dysfunctional movie families is The Grants from 2013's Nebraska. The film was directed by Alexander Payne, who is a couple years removed from The Descendants, which has plenty of family dysfunction in its own right. This one centers around Woody Grant, played by Bruce Dern, a cantankerous old man in Billings, Montana, who gets a sweepstakes notice in the mail. So he tries to drag his son David, played by Will Forte, on the 750-mile road trip to Lincoln, Nebraska to collect this prize. The immediate Grant family also includes June Squibb as Woody's wife Kate, and Bob Odenkirk as their oldest son, Ross. As Woody's insistence that he is about to be rich grows, more issues arise within the family, especially when Woody goes from a hero to a target while passing through his hometown.
Look, Aunt Betty, guys, hey, for real, honestly, right? Woody didn't win anything. This is a total sham.
You're a damn liar.
Feed us into your bullshit, Ross.
Well, you want to go?
Let's do it.
Come on, hey. Hey, watch my face, okay? I'm on TV.
When it comes to Dern, he was pretty much one of Payne's first choices for the role of the Grant family patriarch, although to please the suits, Payne met with actors like Robert De Niro and Robert Forster, who both turned it down, which led back to Dern. The role of David was a desired one around town, with Bryan Cranston reading for it and others being considered like Paul Rudd and Casey Affleck. But Russell went with Forte, who was considered much less high profile than what was expected, but he delivered nonetheless. And this film and its dysfunctionally fantastic family clearly made an impact. Nebraska earned 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Dern, Best Supporting Actress for Squibb, and Best Original Screenplay for writer Bob Nelson. Plus, the Grant family picked up Best Ensemble Cast Awards at both the Satellite Awards and the Boston Society of Film Critics Awards, which is almost as cool as, actually winning that Nebraska sweepstakes. Well, there you have it, all you functional folks out there, our list of the most dysfunctional families in movies. So which one is your favorite, or which one did we leave off? Harry and the Hendersons? Which movie gonna throw on next time you and the fam are sitting around the TV together, eating popcorn and wanting to feel better about your own situation? I know, I'm asking a lot of questions here. It's no wonder my family doesn't talk to me. I'm kidding, they love me. Thanks for watching, Mom. And thank you for tuning into RT Essentials. I'm your semi-functional host, Mark Ellis, who's looking forward to not saying the word dysfunction ever again, or at least for quite some time.